I got a news flash for you. What you did 3 years ago no longer works. Hell, what you did a year ago no longer works. Everything is out of date. What's happening? It's your boy, the ROB, Rob Hunter, another edition of Equal Matters for the standard bearers, those here to redefine our industries. I want to quote Biggie Smalls for you because he had a song called Things Done Changed, and that's what we're in the middle of. Three big things come to mind for me when I think about all these changes that are happening rapidly: uncertainty, high prices, and a lack of trust. There have been a lot of promises in the world over the last 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years that have not been fulfilled. So that has left us not trusting much. And that means, guess what? This is the biggest opportunity we've had in business and as leaders in the past 10 years. Because all you have to do is gain trust. Gain trust in high prices and uncertainty, and you win. You gain loyalty, and people will continue to come back to you over and over and over and over again. So I want to tell you a few examples of how I know things aren't working anymore. First and foremost, a personal example. I've been a business owner for 3 years now. And in my business, I've tried everything that has been prescribed to me. Market this way, get the word out that way, write this post, do the thing. And they just haven't worked. What is working is me being more true to myself, sharing my values: freedom, equality, justice, truth, and accuracy. Those are my values. That's how I promote my business. That's how I run my business. And that's how I'm attracting people to come work with me in my business as standard bearers who need help setting up their sovereign broadcast channels. Why do we need this? Because that's how you build trust with themes and consistency and stories. All these things that I did on the radio for 27 years are more relevant than ever to both leaders and business owners. Now, let's use the term marketing here for just a second. Marketing, how I define it, is how you get the word out, either about your business or about your leadership abilities. So if you're a leader, you're marketing to your teams what your values are, what you stand for, what decisions you make. You do this through emails, meetings, one-on-one meetings, group team meetings. Anytime you're interacting with someone as a leader, you're marketing yourself. It's how you show up. Same goes for business owners. But when we think of promoting a business, sometimes you think of advertisement. Sometimes you think of getting on TV news or getting in magazines or podcasts, promoting your business. But see, here's the thing. We are so bombarded with information now, it's impossible to keep up with everything. It's impossible to follow everything. And there are so many promises in this information overload age in which we live in. Those promises are unfulfilled, so it leads us as consumers to trust way less. So I'm going to give you a few examples beyond me today too, and just experiencing this in my own business and reconstituting the way that I do things. Buddy of mine, he's got a book coming out, and he's done the same thing. So in the book traditional world, you write a book, you have a publisher, and you get a marketer. And the publisher and the marketer and you as the author work together to promote the book. You get interviews, you get on TV shows, you get in magazines, like I said, you do podcasts, maybe you take out some ads. But the traditional marketing efforts just haven't worked, haven't yielded any results. And the only result that my friend got was a big hole in his checkbook. And that is incredibly disappointing because he's incredibly proud of the work that he put into the book, and he's incredibly proud of the book. But what worked a year ago doesn't work. What worked 3 years ago doesn't work. Another example I want to share with you is Burger King versus McDonald's. And we're going to start with McDonald's because McDonald's forever has been the standard bearer in fast food. They're the biggest, most well-known. They have $1 billion marketing budget. $1 billion. That's how they stay on top. They spend a lot of money. But let's go back to those three things that have changed, that have caused major disruptions in the way that we operate: uncertainty, high prices, and lack of trust. That was one of the big things that happened during the pandemic. Was the price of everything went through the roof and have yet to come down in most cases. And McDonald's is value for consumers, for all of us that went and got Big Macs. I used to get 2 cheeseburgers, ketchup only, when McDonald's opened up in Hanson, Massachusetts, where I grew up. And I can't remember the year. It maybe have been 1992. Maybe it was earlier than that. No, I think I was in 6th or 7th grade. So this would have been like 89 probably. McDonald's opened up, and it was this huge thing because there was no national chain fast food restaurants in my town. Next town over, Whitman, they had a Wendy's, they had a Burger King, but no McDonald's. So when we got the McDonald's, we were thrilled. The Golden Arches has come, and you remember that as a kid, how important McDonald's was. I used to go with my dad every Sunday and my brother. We would go to McDonald's, and we would get breakfast, and then we'd go to my grandmother's house. So McDonald's has this particular place in our lives. But with the price increase, they didn't control it very well, and they didn't control the narrative very well. And the value perception that McDonald's has for consumers fell off a cliff. So McDonald's decided to do what they always done. And this is going back 3 years ago. You might remember this. They put this under $3 menu out there. And I just saw an ad for this the other day. So they're still running it. But it was a flop. So even though McDonald's is the master of marketing, they spend $1 billion on marketing. What they did 3 years ago no longer works. Because what happened to McDonald's is in-store sales have almost stopped. And that's how fast food is judged. That's how quarterly profits are judged, right? Stock reports, in-store sale increase. McDonald's was at 0.8%. That is 0.8%. That's just a blip on the radar. They're shooting for way higher numbers than that. So after the $3 and under menu didn't work, they brought in big promotions. And this is what McDonald's has done forever. Certainly since I was a kid. Big movie, go get a Happy Meal. There'd be a toy inside that. McDonald's still does that. They had a huge promotion that involved K-pop, which is incredibly popular music for young people, trying to get people to come into McDonald's. They also did a promotion with the World Cup when that was going on. And still, sales in-store barely increased. So what they're used to doing is not working. Now let's compare this to Burger King. Because Burger King had the same troubles. They were facing decreased sales in stores, negative numbers. So they shuffled things around. They brought in a new chef. And what Burger King decided to do with this new chef, and this was the chef that helped Popeyes go crazy with that chicken sandwich that they put out. I don't know, what was that, 5 or 6 years ago when everybody wanted a Popeyes chicken sandwich? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So they hired that guy, Burger King did. And he revamped the Whopper. And what he did was he upgraded the bun. He put better mayo on the bun. And he put it in a box. Remember, Whoppers used to come, and I used to go to Burger King all the time. I'll explain that in a second. Whoppers used to come in like the regular sheet, right? So you have to eat it fast. Well, putting the box in it preserves the freshness. So now you've got this Whopper with a new bun and better mayo, and you're like, all of a sudden, oh, okay. So in other words, what Burger King has done is they've upgraded their standards, put higher standards in place, and people have responded to it because Burger King's store sales have increased 8.5%. Now compare that. McDonald's has long been the leader in fast food, the standard bearer. They're struggling despite offering the same promotions, despite spending $1 billion on marketing, because they've lost the trust of the people, the trust in that good value. I think the last time I went to McDonald's, it was just me. It was $18. I haven't been to Burger King in a while, but I used to go to Burger King every single week. I used to go to Burger King up until I was about 26 years old regularly. But what Burger King did is they simplified their offerings. Burger King went through a period where they brought in a whole bunch of new menu items, and that got really confusing. Same thing happened to McDonald's, as I mentioned, with the under $3 menu, the K-pop promotion, the World Cup promotion. It caused a lot of confusion in McDonald's, a lot of confusion in the kitchen, a lot of confusion at the cash register. So what also started to happen is service got slower. Orders got messed up more. So people became dissatisfied with their McDonald's experience and stopped going back. Burger King experienced something similar a few years ago, but worked to correct that. They've simplified their value menu to simply 2 for $5, 3 for $7. And that's 2 sandwiches for $5, 3 sandwiches for $7. This isn't meant to be an advertisement for Burger King or McDonald's, but just to indicate how doing things a different way, not by spending more on marketing, not by doing what you've always done. And my man Mike Russell, who I did a talk show with in Phoenix, Russell and Hunter on 550 KFY, he used to always say, Mike always used to say, do what you always do, give what you always got. McDonald's is experiencing that right now. They just think they can buy their way and bully their way back to the top, but it's not working. And yeah, of course, they're still on top. They're still 5 times the size of Burger King. They have a worldwide imprint, and it's a very impressive operation. But it's hard to stay on top, especially now, with uncertainty everywhere. Fast food, politics, news, you name it, with high prices in fast food restaurants, things that we used to be able to go and feed a whole family for $25, now all of a sudden is $70. High prices. In fact, went out to breakfast this morning. A regular place, wasn't a fancy place. And every meal was $18 for breakfast. So this is just the world that we live in. We're more discerning with how we spend our money. And because we have all these promises, I'm going to lower prices, I'm going to get gas prices down, politicians, marketing, selling us on all these things that haven't yielded those results, it creates a lack of trust. So the point in all of this is, if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, the road is unpaved that's ahead, which means it is a perfect opportunity to upgrade your standards like Burger King. What is your better bun? What's your better mayo? What's that version of it? And this applies to you as a leader too. Because the same thing is true in marketing that it is for leadership. Now, leadership, there's all these leadership principles out there, tons of leadership books. And don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed many books on leadership. I've enjoyed many books on marketing. But the information is outdated because of the times that we live in. Going back to the uncertainty, the high prices, and the lack of trust. And reminding you of this idea that how you led 3 years ago no longer works. How you led a year ago no longer works. Because there is such a lack of trust. Because there is so much uncertainty. Leadership, maybe high prices matter to you, maybe they don't. But it is a factor in our everyday lives. But see, Burger King broke through not just by putting these new standards in place, and this is tantamount to the work that I do, which I would so encourage you to do. Because Burger King's feather in the cap was the way that they quote unquote marketed. Now, they didn't have as big an ad spend as McDonald's. So what they did is they created some commercials and they put out tons of social media content as a broadcast, as a channel to let people know that they've changed their standards. Not just with the upgraded Whopper, but how they treat you as a customer when you come in. Their employees are your way specialists. Because as Burger King always says, your way. Was it your way, the right way, your way, right away, something like that. So the your way specialists have all been trained to help you order it your way. So if you don't want the Whopper the way that the Whopper comes, you can substitute things. Because after all, they want you to have a good experience. And what was really cool about Burger King's broadcast, their channel that they put out there, their CEO, Tom Curtis, was all over those ads. He's the guy talking to employees about the Whopper. And he asked one of them, what if I don't want onions? I don't know if onions are on the Whopper, I'm just saying. He's like, yeah, no problem. We'll make it your way for you. So this is an employee talking to the CEO in a commercial. But it enforces and reinforces what Burger King is doing. And there's a consistency to it and a theme to it. And there's storytelling involved in it. And I can only tell you this is working because I see the results with my clients. I've used my boy Dave Riccio a lot. He owns Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair in Tempe. Just recorded a full episode with him, which if you have not listened to, please do. Because what you're going to hear is not just us discuss heart-centered leadership and Dave's definition of that by breaking a few industry rules. Again, to this point, what happened 3 years ago, what you did 3 years ago, no longer works. What you did a year ago no longer works. You got to break a few industry rules. That's how you shake up the uncertainty and turn it into certainty. That's how you take the lack of trust and turn it into trust. But with what Dave is doing with my help is he's broadcasting his values. He's telling stories. He's taking you inside the shop. He is showing you how he does business. And what that does is helps me as a consumer. I take my car to Dave's shop, and I did long before we started working together. It helps me understand that he does business a different way than just about everyone else in auto repair. That he has values, that his standards are high. His standards to take care of your car, his standards on how he's going to treat you, how his team's going to treat you. But at the same time, he acknowledges in these broadcasts that he has high standards for you as a customer. And that's exactly the way it should be. Because in this game of lack of trust, it can be a two-way street, particularly if that's your standard. And here's how I know that it's working. The last 2 months at Dave's shop have been the busiest in his 20 years that he's owned the place. Why? Because he's doing it like Burger King. So I'll wrap this up and tell you this. If you're hiring a marketer and they're telling you to get on TV news and run ads and get in magazines and go on podcasts, cool. But that's not going to get you anywhere. It'll get you okay results, maybe. But by creating your own channels, broadcasting your values and your standards, and maybe like Dave, it's YouTube, it's a podcast, and it's social media channels. For you, it might not be that. It might be writing. It might be something completely different. Maybe it's a Substack. Maybe it's a combination of all those things. Maybe it is just a podcast, audio only. Something that excites you about your business to get your message out, your word out, your standards out. That's what's going to make a huge difference in your business. That's how business is going to grow in these times of uncertainty, high prices, and lack of trust. And of course, as always, if you as a standard bearer know that you need to broadcast your channel, your values, your standards, your stories, your theme, I invite you to send me a DM. I invite you to get on my calendar. I invite you to send me a message on Telegram. Those links will be found in the podcast notes. But don't sit here and wait, because the more you wait, the more you end up like McDonald's. And all of a sudden, your business is impacted because you've been trying to do the same things that you've always done, and they're just not working. And I know this because of my business. I know this because of my friend I told you about, several other small business owners that are grinding their wheels trying to do the same things they've been doing, things that used to work 3 years ago that no longer work. So you don't want to be like that. You don't want to be like McDonald's. We want to be like Burger King. We want to be like Dave. Because as the standard bearer, you can only redefine your industry if you tell people about it. You can't be the best kept secret in your industry. Not anymore. That's not how it works. So get after it. Let me know what you think and hit me up. It's the boy, the ROB, Rob Hunter, Equal Matters. We'll be back with you real soon. Cheers.